Wow, we travel these old interstates nowadays, and there's some really big gas stations nowadays. Times have really changed, that's for sure. There's some of them now that's got over 100 gas pumps. That's right, over 100 gas pumps. And this one's a big one. And you can get anything you want in these places. These are little shopping centers too. And they are amazing, and they're nice to see. But I love to travel the old country, the back roads. I love the history of our old people. And I find places like this, the old gas stations. These are just keepsakes here and there. They're all gone. Just a few here in places, just for museum pieces. And these old gas pumps, they are amazing to see. I can remember these as a small child. Time's gone by. And you get in these old places, the mom and pop stores that had gas stations out front, and they had anything you needed. You pump your own gas, or they'd do it for you. All up and down this countryside across America. And they were just owned by little mom and pops of local communities. They'd do anything they could to help you. And you couldn't ask for better people than these old country stores. And you get inside and anything you want. They take care of you just like you was family. But they're still around. But they're far and in between. Not as many as they used to, but they're still out there. Beautiful old country stores. Now they started out with automobiles. Back around this country where people could afford them. Probably back in the 20s, early 20s, late teens. Like this, the old A's, Model T's. But they had to have gas to run them on. So these little gas stations, they popped up all around the country. All kinds of gas stations. And as time went on, the cars developed more modern, so did the gas stations. And you'd travel around between these cities and the rural areas, up and down these highways. And you see these little gas stations everywhere in these little small country towns, all across America. But they're all but gone. Here's one still in Tazewell, Tennessee. And out in these rural areas, they'd usually just, you take care of yourself, or they would serve you, take care of you. And they pride themselves on having a little old mechanic at these little old gas stations. They could do just about anything to get you back on the road. And they love to take care of you service-wise. They would check your oil, clean your windshield, check iron your tires, just common stuff to help you out. You'd never have to leave your vehicle. And they pride themselves on it too. And they even had a lot of commercials and stuff. They really pride themselves on their gas stations back in the days. And all kinds of gas stations of all different types. Here's just a few. Remember the old Texaco, don't you? Old signs still hanging here and there. Old Gulf, which is BP now. These old signs are still around here and there if you look for them. Now here's my first car when I started driving back in the early 70s. Old 66 Impala. About all I could do to put gas in it. And I remember back in 1973, a couple of years after I started driving, they had an oil embargo. This is where OPEC decided not to give the U.S. oil for about a few days or a week or so. And it was chaos. Just the stations run out of gas. There was no gas to be got at any price. And it was a mess. But that didn't last but just a few days or a week or so. They sorted that out as a political problem. That's all it was. But you can remember back in them days in the late 60s, I think that's when they made their best automobiles. Some nice looking cars, trucks of all models. And what I really like amazes me is these old newspaper ads. Look at the prices. Of course, back then that was big money, but look at that. What's the price of them today? And I love these old vehicles, these old pickup trucks, old cars. That's back when they made something. And the best thing about these old trucks, if you had some mechanical ability about you, you could work on them. You could work on stuff like this. Just a little common sense. You could work on anything in the world like that right there. And there's a lot of these old, they call shade tree mechanics, backyard mechanics. I've done many of this, and you have too. You keep an old vehicle running. And if you know your way around a toolbox, here's one had a toolbox in his door. What about that? That's amazing. I thought I'd show that. But an old country boy, you learn to work on these old cars, watching your mom, your dad, your elders work on them, and you worked on them too. And they had to work on them. Them old boys back in them days, they run shine in these vehicles. They souped them up. So they know how to work on these old vehicles. And they done a lot of racing too in their spare time. So they was good at working on these old vehicles. Just come natural to them. But nowadays, how do you work on this? There's only so much things you can do. That's just a computer on wheels, basically. A computer on wheels. Without a code reader, a diagnostic machine that you can't afford, you don't know what's wrong with them. Sensor after sensor. It's just about impossible to work on. Nowadays, they went to these electric cars, and that's a good concept. That's a good idea to save pollution and all that. I'm all for it. But it's not practical in the rural areas with their batteries. The machine is only as good as its fuel source, and these batteries, they don't hold up. They haven't caught up. The technology has not caught up yet. Now, these old cars, like I said, power pliers, coat hanger, screwdriver, you could about fix anything on these things. Them was the good old days. Here's what they look like now, sad to say, if you can even find them. Scrap metal's high now. They're sitting everywhere, around an old garage or a barn. And it's sad to see, but these old vehicles had their time. And I love to see them, and a lot of people collect them and fix them up. Just the old times gone by, how things have changed in the last 70 or 80 years. These old gas stations, they've changed so much. This new generation don't know nothing about half of what I told you. So I hope you enjoy this little stuff. I like to go back in history and look at how our ancestors and our elders, how they lived and how this country developed over time. So I want to thank you for watching. God bless, and I'll see you next time.